But chill, we gonna get into it though. All right, so this next round of G Code conversations, we got philanthropist, we got an intelligent brother, we got a promoter, a music producer, you know what I mean, and a father, which probably most important. We got my boy Orlando Watson. A lot of y'all may know him as Pretty Boy. Welcome to G Code Conversations.
Man, happy to be here.
Appreciate it.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Happy to be here for real.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
My first question to you is, how and where did you grow up?
I grew up mainly in U City. Mainly in U City, by way of the north side though, because my family, you know, is from Penrose and Newstead area. So I would spend my weeks in U City.
Yeah.
On the weekend, I'd be down on Penrose, 4489 Penrose.
Yeah.
That was a family house for like 5 decades. My grandparents moved down there when it was like all white folks, you know what I'm saying? So they moved in the neighborhood and probably scared some people up out of that place.
Yeah, so.
You know what I mean? But yeah, back and forth from UC to the north side, man.
Okay. Yeah, so then, like growing up between, you know, both parts, like were there any aspirations that you had then growing up before you got into what you got into now?
I think at a young age, man, I was influenced by the men in my family. You know, my mama's family in particular it was 13 of them. You know, so I had 8 uncles on that side, and most of them were entrepreneurs. You know, my grandfather had one of the first black-owned construction companies in St. Louis. So, you know, kind of watching him and my uncles and my father. You know, had his own company when I was growing up too. So, you know, being around entrepreneurs at a young age, I knew that I wanted to work for myself.
Right.
Doing what, I don't know. You know what I mean? Not at a young age. I knew I wanted to work for myself in some capacity though.
Right.
So,
how many siblings you got? You like the oldest of a certain amount, or?
So how do you do that now? You know, like when my father was married first, and so was my mother. So I mean, I got 3 brothers, and I got 2 sisters. 2 older brothers, 1 younger brother, and both my sisters are older. So.
Right. Okay. So speaking of, you know, as you was talking about being around entrepreneurs and things of that nature, when you were younger, explain to me how you got into music. You know what I mean?
You know, my family was musical. My uncle, you know, was a singer. My aunt was a singer, a pretty famous gospel singer. And, you know, I caught the hip hop bug early though.
Right.
You know, so I was born in the 70s, so like the early 80s when hip hop first started, you know, I was a DJ. You know, we had a crew. It was me, Charlie Chan, and my homeboy Day Dangerous D. He was the MC. So me and Chan were both DJing, and this was like 83, 84. I stopped DJing though because, you know, Chan got so good that I was like, man, I'm never gonna be that good. And I'm the kind of cat, like, if I'm not gonna be the best, I'm gonna go do something else and be the best at that.
Right.
So I focused my, you know, my efforts on the production side. You know what I mean? So got a drum machine, you know, like keyboards and stuff, and started making, you know, the music. So I was a producer, and then Chan was a DJ, and my homeboy was the MC. So yeah, we got that bug early. Went to the Raising Hell and the Fresh Fest tour back in 83, 84 with Run DMC and Houdini and LL Cool J. You know, came home from that concert like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Right.
We'll be in that business right there somehow. You know what I mean? So yeah, we got that early.
That's dope. So like, who was that's crazy because I didn't know you and Charlie Chan was in You
That
know,
was
in
my
a
best friend,
conglomerate.
one of my first friends.
Yeah.
One of my first friends. Chan was cold, man.
Yeah.
Chan knew early. I always give him a hard time. I say, he became a great DJ because he couldn't break dance. Because we had a break dance crew too.
Right.
So you know what I mean.
So y'all was a part of all aspects of hip hop.
Oh man, graffiti on the schools, and I used to break dance, like really break dance. We won contests and all that kind of stuff.
Y'all really true to it.
Yeah.
Well, who was you say you got into the producing after you wasn't the best at DJing. So who was some of the artists that you used to produce for early on back then?
Back in the '80s, I mean, it was a lot of cats you wouldn't probably even know, just whoever was in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? But as we got older, and getting out of high school or whatnot, I left St. Louis, moved to Atlanta. Me and my homeboy Pretty Russ, rest in peace. We moved to Atlanta, kind of chasing our dreams, early '90s. And my first gig was working for Keith Sweat. We produced some stuff for Keith. He signed a group that we were working with, Old School from St. Louis.
Right.
They had a deal with Keith and put an album out that went gold. Did pretty good.
Right.
And so that was my entry into the business. And I had a group called Fabu from Detroit. They had a song called Just Roll. It went platinum back in like '95. I was pretty young back then. That was my first taste of some money. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, okay, this could turn into something. But down in Atlanta, like when the scene first started, like when Babyface and L.A. Reid first moved down there, and Dallas Austin and Social Def was just starting. Freaknik was popping. You know what I mean? So it was during that time. We ran across anybody who was hot back then. Man, Lil Jon used to live in the apartment next to me. You know what I mean? Like he was working at Kroger in the daytime and going to the studio at night. So, man. Yeah.
The real grind. Tell me about, so you do producing. I also know you had a few artists as well. Some whom are local, like, they did further things beyond the local scene, but as far as the ones that's from here, like Miley and Brad Young. So the first part of my stint was the Pretty Boy Records days. So I had my own company called Pretty Boy Records. Okay. And I had a label deal at Atlantic for a while. And then I went to Universal, produced an artist named Tyra B. She had a song called Country Boy that went platinum. And then right around '05, me and Brad Young started working together, and I kind of put Pretty Boy Records to the side, and we formed a new company called Rock House Entertainment. And under Rock House was June 5th, with Tiffany Fox, and then Aloha Michelle, who was on American Idol, Miley. Of course, Brad was an artist too. Right. Brad had offers from labels all over the world, but he wanted to stay independent. His brother Vega was also a rapper and producer. So we had a really tight crew, and we're still working together with most of the artists. Production is probably the biggest thing that we're doing now. We did stuff for Gotti, Jeezy, Kelly Rowland, Akon, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Yolanda Adams, so y'all just over all spectrums of the culture for real.
Yeah,
that's dope.
For sure, absolutely.
That's dope. So tell me how your music acumen from producer to label owner, how did that transition over into you getting into the promoting aspect of it?
Man, I signed a production contract when I was 19, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just happy to be in the business, you know what I mean? So I signed the first thing somebody gave to me at 19. $5,000 cash on the table with a contract at 19. Back in the 90s, that was big money, you know what I mean? So I kind of signed my life away. And then later on, when I realized what I had done, I had vowed to myself that number one, I would never just jump into an agreement like that. And number two, the folks I had signed with, they weren't smarter than I was. They were just connected and understood the business. So I kind of dug in, and became a student of the game and learned the business inside and out. And then once I did that, I went and formed my own company, and I wanted to learn every part of it.
Yeah.
You know, at one point I was the producer, the writer, the engineer, the manager, the talent booker, the babysitter. You know what I'm saying? Like I played every role, and so at one point, I'm like, I want to learn the promotion side of it. This was around like 99, 2000. And I threw my first event, my first concert down at Club Liquid by Union Station. Of course, it's not there no more, but that was Jeff Lamb owned that place. And it was a bust. I think I had like 20 folks that came out. You know what I'm saying? We lost money, but I'll never forget though. At the end of the night, it was time to pay everybody. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there like, well, we didn't make no money.
Right.
So security came over like, yeah, man, they gave me the bill. It was like $1,800 for all the security. And I went in my pocket and paid everybody. And the guy that ran the company said, man, you know what, you're a real dude, because most cats would have kind of ducked out of paying us because they had lost. Right. And me and him still together to this day, man. It was 20 years ago.
That's
dope.
What
I'm saying? So, but no, I just kind of wanted to learn the promotion game. So I threw my first event. And then it's over the years, man, throwing different parties, bringing artists. We brought 3 6 Mafia way back in the day at the Spotlight and those kind of things. And then at some point, we got real serious and upped the ante. Started doing stuff at the pageant. I built a rapport with Joe Edwards and those guys, and doing stuff at the Shafits and then out of town. Working with everybody from Dave Chappelle to Kevin Hart to Destiny's Child when they were together. Jeezy, Ross, Chris Tucker. Just thousands of artists, man, that we worked with over the years. Man.
That's dope. And in that, like, what are some of your most successful shows? Like, what are the ones that you look forward to the most because okay, this is gonna bring the people out and the energy is just gonna be crazy.
So for me, the things I look forward to the most may not be the ones that generate the most money. That might sound strange, but sometimes I'll do shows that I know will make money so that I can do shows that may not make as much money. You know what I mean? Like we did Rakim, who to me is the #1 MC of all time and one of my idols. We did Rakim, and he did cool. It wasn't like a sold out show, but it wasn't like when we did Megan Thee Stallion that sold out in 10 days, or Kodak Black that sold out in 48 hours. You know what I mean? But sometimes I'll do some of the ones that I know that'll work, that may not be even my cup of tea.
Right. But
those make it easier when I want to go out and try something that maybe everybody's not even hip to, or maybe it's something a little risky. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I want to see a packed house as often as I can. It's good for business for everybody around.
Of course.
Also I like doing stuff that we did old school show, man, with Houdini, Slick Rick, Dougie Fresh, and who else? Dana Dane. It wasn't quite sold out, but man, the energy was just crazy. You know what I mean? Like we had an old school breakdance contest and a battle with the DJs, and just that vibe felt so good, and I was able to give something to a demographic that's kind of underserved. That 40 and up. Sometimes that demo is underserved as far as concerts, so it felt good giving that to them. And then of course the following week we did Lil Baby. You know what I'm saying? So,
kind of bring it
sold
right
out.
back.
You know what I mean? So it's like polar opposites. You know what I mean? But
that's dope. Okay, one other thing that I noticed about you was I would consider you somebody to be fearless. You know what I mean? Like usually people in your position that may have a lot to lose, you know what I mean? A lot of times they're conscious about that.
Yeah.
But I think it was 2014 when I first met you. We were at the Fannie Lou Hamer thing over in Berkeley at the municipality.
Yeah.
And you talked about putting up, 5 figures of your own money to a cause, you know what I mean, to take care of some situations that we need to be taken care of in the community. So I asked you, what gives you the passion for your activism and your voice, you know what I mean, and being fearless, and what drives you to, you know, always speak up or actually do the work as far as your activism goes?
You know, I can't really take all the credit for that. I mean, I grew up around activists in my family, you know what I mean? A lot of my family, you know, migrated from St. Louis to Oakland, you know, like during the era when the Panthers were
Black Panthers,
were
yeah.
hot. And so some of my family were involved in that. And, you know, I just was always around those kind of people, you know what I mean? Fearless people that kind of, you know, didn't wait for things to fall apart in the neighborhood before they would act. They would get involved early to try to be proactive about, you know, making some changes. So for me, I just felt like, you know, that's kind of, that's part of my calling, you know. One time, one of my mentors, he was watching me on social media one time, and he said, man, you know, I noticed you got a bunch of followers and stuff. He said, you know, I see you feeding them, you know, the parties and, you know, the concerts and the music and this and that. And he was like, well, what else are you feeding? This was years ago. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, you know, you got to lead them somewhere. He said, and it's okay to lead them to a good time, but are you giving them something else, you know, something hearty, something that they can really, you know, take away, you know, and implement in their lives? I'm like, so I became mindful of, like, even the things that I would put on my social media pages. Like, there's certain things you won't see on my page, certain images you won't see on my page. I even try to not curse on my page, you know what I'm saying? Just because I know folks are watching.
Right.
But I mean, I've always been around, you know, in activism, man. From you know, way before Mike Brown, you know, the Ferguson movement. I've been doing that since I was a kid, man. Just always involved wherever I could be, you know. And I don't worry about any kind of blowback that you'll get from, you know, the community, from the politicians or whatever folks are concerned with. It don't bother me. I mean, I'm self-made. I work for myself, you know what I mean? So there's been times when, you know, I jump out on the calls that may piss off some of the folks who you know, spend money with me, you know, and if I lose a few of them by doing something right, then that's what it is, you know. You got to look yourself in the mirror at some point, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And I done been broke before, man, so, you know, when you've been broke and had money and then been broke again and had money, it's like, all right, so this is something that I can change, you know what I mean? As long as I can get up out the bed and God allow me to move around, I can go get some more money. I can find a way to make some money, but you can't get you can't get that. My father told me, he said, I'm gonna leave you something real important. And I'm like, what? Some money? He said, nah, you know, I'm gonna leave you something really important. He said, don't mess it up. I said, what's that? He said, my name. You know, he said, yeah, that name is crucial. You know, you can go out there and build a good name for yourself, and if you fall off, you can get back up by making a call or two, like, you know what I mean? Because you did good by people, so they don't mind, you know, looking out for you if you fall, you know. So I'm big on that, man. Reputation is everything, you know.
Okay, and outside of that, now we get to this point today where you got your round 2 going on right now with the cancer that you've been open about.
Yeah.
Explain to me how it was your first go around and dealing with such a, you know, a great obstacle in your life to now dealing with it. Like, what's your mindset then, and what's your mindset now on, you know what I mean, just the whole process?
You know, the first time that I found out I had cancer was 13 years ago. It was September 2006. And it was shocking. I mean, you know, anybody would be shocked, especially myself, because I had prided myself on taking care of myself, you know, as best as I knew how. I never smoked, never drank, never did drugs. I wasn't overweight. You know what I mean? I watch what I eat to some degree. Got a bad sweet tooth. But other than that, I mean, I kind of kept it in check. And I was so young at the time, you know what I mean? So it was frightening, you know what I mean? I was probably less scared of somebody shooting at me, you know what I mean? Because you can see that coming. Cancer sneak up on you at that age. It's like, wow. And plus, in my family, I had seen so many people die from cancer. You know, I lost, you know, several grandparents, 5 aunts, I think 4 uncles, a couple of cousins, some friends, and then eventually, at some point, you know, after I got sick, I lost my mother to lung cancer. So, you know, when those odds are in your family, when those stats are in your family, you're like, wow, okay. But you know, I didn't feel like it was the thing that was going to take me out, though. Like I was nervous about it, but I was like, all right, this must be some kind of test for me. This must be something that's supposed to be making me learn something. You know what I mean? From day one, I felt like, nah, this is not the thing that's going to take me out. And so I was real proactive, man. I mean, I visited doctors all over this country. You know, my money was a little different then too, so I was just kind of like bouncing around. I went to UCLA, UCSF in Frisco. I was down in Burbank. I went to all the doctors in St. Louis, and eventually I was blessed enough to get down to Mexico and get with Dr. Holder Clark. And she wrote the book, The Cure for All Diseases. She was a genius woman. She was you know, she wasn't a medical doctor. She was an actual scientist. And she was hired by the government back in the 60s to research cancer, you know. And when she got done with her research, she wanted to go public with her findings. And the government kind of put a muzzle on it, like, nah, that's not why we hired you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so she kept quiet for probably 2 decades, and then in the 80s, she just couldn't take it no more. So she opened a clinic out in San Diego and started treating, like, you know, a lot of the stars and stuff out there. You know, there's a lot of stories about different people who went to go see her for different things. You know, even Magic Johnson was rumored that went and seen her about, you know, what he had going on. But anyway, I was fortunate enough to meet her and be under her treatment for a few weeks down in Mexico. She ended up dying some years ago, but she was like 80-something when I met her. So this time around, you know, fast forward, you know, 13 years later, I'm probably more shocked this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably more shocked this time because, you know, when you beat something like that, sometimes you have the tendency to start thinking that, you know, that you're Superman. You know what I mean? It was like I done beat it, so nothing can pierce me this time around. And I was having pains in my knee, the same area as before. Back in August, September, I was feeling some pains in my knee, and I'm like, it's probably arthritis or something. You know, and so I shook it off for a little bit, and but the pain started getting so bad, and I'm like, yeah, this ain't that. Went to the doctor, they did some tests, and you know, it came back. Oddly enough, I agreed to do radiation 13 years ago, kind of as a compromise on doing some kind of conventional medicine. The radiation is what caused this cancer 13 years later. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I don't knock the medical world at all, because there's you know, there's pros and there's cons to it. You know what I mean? There's always an upside and downside. I think the upside was it did help dissipate the last tumor and get rid of that cancer, but it also brought about another cancer 13 years later. So it's been difficult. This one came with a surgery. I'm really just learning how to walk again. You know what I mean? They took out the bone from here in my femur all the way down to my knee. So my knee was replaced and all this bone is gone. It's all metal now. So, you know, that's some getting used to. You know, I guess I gotta get some kind of permission to fly now, because when I go to the TSA, I'm gonna set the alarms off, you know. But, you know, it's another fight. It's another fight, man, you know, and I'm up for it. I'm up for it. I got a good support system. My family's strong, a lot of friends, and, you know, there's people that I don't even know who see me on social media or wherever they see me or hear my story, it'll come up to me and, you know, offer support. So, you know, we're gonna be all right. Okay. We're gonna be all right.
Cool. On a lighter note, we got Prime 55, where we are now.
Yes, sir.
What gave you the motivation to get into, the food business, the restaurant business?
I thought it was a perfect segue from entertainment. Because really, when you think about entertainment, there's different components of it, but one of those components is food.
Mm-hmm.
Food, music, alcohol. They all kind of go hand in hand. And so, me and my partner, Tony Davis, T Love,
right.
we grew up together also, same neighborhood, me, him, and Charlie. And I was the first producer to take, Nelly and the Ticks to the studio.
Mm-hmm.
That was because Tony was my best friend back then. And so we all kind of grew up in the business together, but we didn't do anything professionally together. Like once we got on,
right.
He kind of went his way, I kind of went my way. No animosity, just in our own little worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we got older, we realized like, man, we never did no work together. We should do something together.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat down brainstorming like, what should we do? And at one point it was like, maybe we should do a nightclub. And I was like, I've done that before. I ran one. I was a silent owner of one before, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. Let's do something else. And so we, the food idea came up. Let's do something. Let's do something sexy, something upscale, that's Black owned, in an area where you don't really see much of that. The Loop is primarily, kind of more ethnic, all-American hamburger, ice cream joint, that kind of thing. And so I'm like, let's do something sexy and put it in the Loop. And, right across the street from the pageant, which is my backyard, So we figured we'd do it here, and that way we could have the stars come over after the concerts or before, and it'd be like a perfect mesh. So it's been cool, man. We'll be open a year in May.
Yeah.
Out of all the business I've had, I think it's the toughest one, though.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, man, I never would imagine that something could be tougher than the music business, because the music business is serious, it's cutthroat.
Sure.
But dealing with the public is it's a challenge, man, because people are serious about their food, and they really tend to hold Black-owned establishments in a different regard. And so, like my old man always said, don't give them a reason. Don't give them a reason to find something wrong with you. You got to produce at a high level every time. So, we figuring it out. We're figuring it out on the fly. Like it's in real time. We in there every day trying to figure it out. I got a good team, though. We got a good team over there. So
that's dope. My next question would be like, with all the stuff that you got going on, your history and everything, from the music business to now being involved in a restaurant business, like what gives you your will to win? You know what I mean? Even through your, as we just talked about, like your health scare and your battles and stuff like that, like what give you that will to, keep fighting through whatever industry you in? You know what I'm saying?
I think a lot of that in anybody's life, I think it's really about how you start, right? So I started out as a young kid, real ambitious, and as a winner. Like I was in sports at 7 years old. I was playing baseball, football, out in U City, down in Matthew Dickey, and dog, we won. We won every year. We won. It was just like, it was like this excellence was always expected of us from day one, and so we were always winning. And so when I was 13, I had my first losing season after 6 years of winning. I was heartbroken. I'm like, what is this about?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but no, just kind of getting accustomed to winning at a young age, I think that kind of sets the tone for you, right? And then, at 13, I had a paper route that I got from an old man down in the Loop, you know what I mean? And I had one route, then I had two, then I had three, then I had a couple of my guys, working for me. I'm at 13 years old. I got my partners working the routes for me. We had like all the routes in the Loop up in U City on Olive and Kingsland, and you know what I mean?